Okay, last week we started on our purpose. So we went through part of this class, which is probably like halfway through, and we talked about how we can find our purpose. We talked about the place of birth, the time period of birth, the education and guidance, the environment, how that affects our purpose, and we talked about hashgacha pratis, which is divine providence. Today we're going to start a different part, and for some reason I see that Ina is not here, but because I know that she wanted to figure all of this out, and maybe she was frustrated last week. I don't know, but it would be nice if she was here, but I guess she's not. So first of all, let's dedicate the class to Irina's mom, Gavura Bas Moda, that she should have, her neshama should have an aliyah, and she should be a good to better for all of us, a good person to ask God or beg God, which in Yiddish it says beg God for everything good for us. So first, the part that we're going to start today is the part with the characteristics, which is the emotional disposition, our actual characteristics, and all our inclinations. And we're going to talk about different inclinations and different characteristics that kind of make up our personality. So we are going to look at the personality makeup according to Chassidus, according to the Torah. So first, I'm going to actually share the screen and play for you a video, which is about the different sfirot, which will give us an idea of our characteristics.
What does a painting, a piano, and the primordial pegs of creation have in common? The human eye can detect about 10 million colors, but what we are actually looking at is a tiny group of primary colors that combine in millions of variations of ratios that drench the universe in delightful and awesome visual coloring. A similar principle works for music. Innumerable melodies exist, which can be played on countless forms of instrument. But the wonder we are hearing can be stripped down to just a petite handful of primary musical notes. That's how God created the universe, with just a basic handful of spiritual elements that combine in myriads of ratios to form the splendid symphony of creation. God first created the mystical Sephirot, 10 divine channels through which is infinite light to be condensed, contracted, and then released as individual attributes that could eventually give rise to a diversity of finite creations. Let us make man in our own image, said God. No sooner said than done. Man was created in his Creator's image with his own internal set of 10 attributes through which he operates. These 10 spiritual attributes are reflected in the physical human anatomy. Let's go through them one by one. Sephira 1. Chokhmah. Chokhmah is the initial seed of an idea, the flash of undeveloped inspiration. It enables us to be creative, spiritual, transcendent. Sephira 2. Bina. Bina is the development of ideas. It enables us to be logical, analytical, organized. Sephira 3. Dot. Dot allows us to focus on an idea so that it becomes relevant and personally meaningful. It enables us to be attentive, principled, involved. Sephira 4, Chesed, is the power to love, share, and look kindly upon others. It enables us to be generous, optimistic, sociable. Sephira 5, Gavura, is the power of discipline and restraint. It enables us to be calculated, cautious, serious, Sephira 6. Tiferet is the power to empathize and harmonize kindness with strictness based on the needs of others. It enables us to be balanced, empathetic, harmonious. Sephira 7. Netzach is the power of determination to overcome challenge. It enables us to be persistent, forceful, daring. Sephira 8. Hode is the power of humility, gratitude, and submitting to a higher cause. It enables us to be thankful, devoted, accommodating. Sephira 9. Yesod is the power to focus on others and to build genuine relationships. It enables us to be selfless, altruistic, loyal. And last, but not at all least, Sephira 10. Malchut. Malchut has multiple functions. It is the power of speech and action, effective communication and leadership, and to be receptive to others. It enables us to be leading, communicating, achieving. So there you have it, the 10 components of the human self, the internal mechanism upon which all intellect, emotion, and actions run. God used tens of Sephirot to create his universe, and we use our 10 Sephirot to shape our miniature universes.
Okay, so that is basically in short, but let us go into this number, one second. Remember, we were doing all these things on that on all the different ones, but now we're going to go into detail on this because, wait, how did that happen? I don't know what I did. Oh, there it goes. Okay, so I don't see this as you can understand this just by watching this video because it's a very deep concepts. So let's look at text number 3 first, and let us see. Oh my goodness, keep going back. What happened now? Uh-oh. A minute. Let me go back to this. Somehow I have an error and I don't know what happened here. Hold on. Oh, there it goes. How does it become a proxy error if I touch it, right? Okay, so here's number 3. Here's text number 3. I have to not touch it so much because otherwise it's going to drive me crazy. Okay, so does somebody want to read text number 3 so we can open up the idea of characteristics?
Sure, I'll read.
What page is it, Mattie?
Text number 3.
77, Yulichka.
Thank you, honey.
Oh, Inachka is here.
Oh, Ina's here. Okay. I was a little nervous because I know that you really need this because we want to go over this a million times. So I'm like, I was hoping Ina would be here.
Sorry, yeah.
Okay, wonderful. Okay, who's reading text number 3?
Me.
Okay, go ahead.
Elijah opened his discourse with a prayer. Master of the worlds, you are one and transcended. Oh, sorry.
Transcend. Just transcend.
Transcend. Hold on. Rabbi Pil was calling. Okay. He
was trying to remind you to come to the class.
That's right. You are one and transcend the spirit. You are exalted above all the exalted ones, hidden from all of the hidden ones. No thought can grasp you whatsoever. You're the one who brought forth 10 garments, which we call the 10 Sphirot, through which to direct concealed worlds and revealed worlds.
Okay, so we have kind of like a paradigm. On one hand, we have God who's infinite, that's transcendent. And then we have components of God, which is not transcendent. So it's kind of a strange thing that we can't even understand really. Because on one hand, God is unity, God is everything. And then on the other hand, you have God is components. So what is God? Is he everything? Is he united? Or is he pieces? The only example that really worked for me was if we take a woman Okay? A woman is a human being. That's who she is. But she has components. Are her components her or not? Of course it's part of her. So a woman could be a mom. She could be a wife. She could be an entrepreneur. She could be a community activist, right? What does she do? These are all components of her. But who is she really? She's still a human being. So that's how I kind of can understand God. So in the role of a mother, what are her characteristics? She's loving. She's, she has, more discipline sometimes with her kids, etc. In the role of a wife, she may be slightly different. She may have a different relationship. Oh, shit. I'm just closing it, sorry. Anyhow, so then we have this idea that how is she a wife? A wife, she may be loyal, she may be giving, there are different components in her. What happens when she becomes that entrepreneur? Then all of a sudden she's using her seichel, right? Her mind. She's using her organization skills, right? So at the same time, we see the same person is a unit. She's a complete person, but yet she's divided into many different components. That's why we are in the image of God, because God is that way too, right? That is the way God is. So we said, like, another example would be if we have many different colors, right? We have 3 base colors, but in those base colors, you have many different colors. The same thing when you have musical notes. You only have a certain amount of musical notes. Do, re, mi, fa, sol, la, ti, do, right? What is it? 8? So we have 8 musical notes, but within those musical notes, we can make many different types of songs. So this is what we're saying. There are 10 base characteristics. All those 10 base characteristics, we can make something out of each one of them, or we have more of it, or we have less of it. And this is what it means to have different characteristics that help us grow and help us find our purpose. So let's look at, oh my goodness, every time I touch this, something goes wrong, right? Okay, where was I? Oh no, I have to go back to the PDF. This is what I did. Where is that PDF number 3? Huh? Is this it? No, that's donation report, insurance. I have no idea what I did. No, that's the Rosh Chodesh, regular. And then, oops, this one. I'm here. Sorry, guys. Okay, let's go back. Let's look at the figure 3.1. If I'm going to keep doing this, I think I'm going to go a little bit nuts from that, right? Because I think my computer is very sensitive. So every time I touch something, it moves. So here are the 10 Sfirot. Okay, we have the Chachma, we have Bina, we have Dat, we have Chesed, we have Gavura, we have Tiferet, we have Netzach, or Hode, Yisod, Malchus. You know what? Maybe I'll do it with my.
This is going to make you healthier instantly.
Oh, I did the wrong thing now. Okay, sorry guys. Let's go back to the downloads. No, I'm not in downloads. I was somewhere.
But listen to him as well. I want to get healthy instantly.
Okay, now how am I going to find this again? Oh my goodness. Let me look at the downloads. It was in the downloads, right? Now
Mattie, we can all looking at the books at the same time. It's
I know
okay.
you guys are looking at the books, but I should have done what I should do is I shouldn't touch the screen. I should just do it with my arrow because this is a touch screen and that's where it's messing me up. Okay, so let's see, view, 1 minute, where are we? I don't want to, and so now I need to find where I am. Okay, that's it. I got it. Hello. Let's put that on. Ask you to share it to view it. Okay, there we go. Okay, now we're going to view it, hopefully. Yep, yay. Okay, so let me not use my fingers, okay? I'm just going to use the screen. I'm going to use my down button. Okay, if I touch my screen, it goes crazy. Okay, so here's the Chachma Bina Das. Okay, these are all the 10 Sfirot. You guys have it in your book, and if you don't have it in your book, we're going to go over them slowly now. Okay, so we're going to start from the first one. Okay, let's start from Kochot, in the image of God. So we have these 10 Sfirot, and we are going to start with Chachma. See if I can make that bigger. Perfect. Okay. Chachma means wisdom. And what does wisdom mean? Wisdom is from the word Chachma is koach ma. Koach ma. Koach means strength. Ma means what? In other words, what? What are we going to do? That is the creativity of Chachma. Chachma is a dot. It's a spark of understanding. All of a sudden, I get some information. I did not analyze that information. I just got the spark of information. It's usually people that are very creative, have a lot of chachma. You know that chachma is the right side of the brain, okay? So chachma comes on the right side. So people that are lefties have a lot more chachma actually, but not necessarily only lefties have only a lot of chachma, but they use chachma as their forefront, which is creativity, basically. It's a flash of insight, but we didn't develop it yet. And this is knowledge that we didn't explore. Sometimes people say that it could be the point of faith, because you didn't understand what you're doing yet. It connects to something deeper, which is faith, okay? So here we can see in exercise 3.2, there are different words that they use as characteristics of Chachma. Number one, creative. Okay, you guys, if you want to mark it, I don't know if you did that last time, you might have marked it, you might have not marked it, but if you want to mark it as 1 to 5, if 5 very dominant and 1 being very weak, are you creative? Are you intuitive? Are you very original? Are you very spiritual? Because remember, faith and spirituality is connected. How is spirituality connected to Chachma? Because when a person is more spiritual, they're in tune with their higher self. They're in tune with ideas. Okay, when you're more spiritual, you hear things a lot more that connect into your brain. Like we were saying, like last week, remember I told you about Yitzi Horowitz. We asked him about how much of his brain is he using, and obviously he uses more of his brain because he has to be in tune with the spiritual world because he's not using anything physical. So anybody want to share any of these that they have and how it helps them in their life? Creative, intuitive, original, or spiritual? And how it helps you in your life.
That's probably my main operating system right there. It just keeps me going is how it helps me.
Okay, so you're saying you have a lot of chachma.
Yeah, I feel I hesitate to say that. It sounds like a lot of chutzpah, but that's just the case.
No. It's not chutzpah because
It's
you have to
chachma,
remember
not
that
chutzpah.
every person, that's not chutzpah. It can't be chutzpah because if you have chachma, you don't have chutzpah. So
Yeah,
it just
learning the hard
go
way.
together. So
Yep.
basically what chachma is, it's very creative people that not necessarily will they get to the next step. So they
Yep.
start off with a creation, but it doesn't mean that they apply it to anything or they analyze it. So it may be that, yes, you're very creative. You may not go down to the Bina to analyze the creativity. You may go down to, let's say, something else like Tiferes, or Chesed, or giving. You might just skip over a couple of things. But anyhow, but you're right. When a person is very creative, how does it help you in your whatever you're doing as your purpose?
It's my fuel. I mean, it's how what I run on.
So you run on it.
Energy wise, it propels me forward because it's not. I'm not coming up with it. It's not these. It's not from me. It's like from.
It just shows up, right? Creativity is not from you. Creativity just shows up. Okay, and when we're the most creative? Early in the morning. When you get up in the morning and your mind is not full of garbage. Because you've been thinking about so many different things, or you've been running around or watching some kind of videos or whatever it is, your mind gets cluttered. But when you get up early in the morning, sometimes you notice that your creativity goes nuts early in the morning. Oh yeah, I never thought about that. It happens a lot of times when your mind is more relaxed or you're away from things, then your creativity works a lot more. So I find that helps me. The chachma I usually will get when everything's quiet and my brain is not running.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Anybody else have anything to share about creativity or intuition? Intuition is a big one.
It helps you get out of, if you are stuck in some convoluted situation, it helps you find a way out. Maybe a way out that other people don't see.
Right. So it helps you find different things that you never really thought of to get out of around things. Yeah.
So it's mean that if you are a creative person, then so this is your stronger part of your personality.
Okay, so you're right. Your chachma could be one of your strengths. It doesn't mean that it's all. It doesn't mean that you only have chachma. But if we're going to go through the other ones, you'll see that when we talk about different ones, you go, oh yeah, I have that too. So chachma is the beginning of everything. It's the first drop of anything. It's the idea. If I was going to build a house, I need the chachma first to know what to do. I get like an epiphany. Oh, yes, I want to build a house. See what I'm saying? That's chachma. Then if you go down to Bina, which is the next one, that's the analyticals already. We're analyzing what we thought about. We're analyzing whatever intuition or creativity that we received. So what is Bina? Bina is understanding, comprehension, the power of growth from a seed. If I plant something into the ground, it's the power that makes it grow, develop it. You analyze something, the good things about it and the bad things about it. Should I go ahead and do this? This is Bina. So Bina is breaking down everything, and Chachma would be the general idea, and Bina would be more like the blueprint of the house. Like, now let's analyze what we're going to do, how many rooms we're going to make, etc. Okay, that would be Bina. So Bina here, according to this exercise 3.2, would be analytical. That's what we just talked about. Logical, of course. It has to be a form of logic. Organized. You see, Bina, it's organizing the chachma, organizing the spark of idea. Okay, and then the last one is studious. Because if you're not studious, you can't take the chachma and make it into Bina because you need to analyze it. So this is the idea of Bina. Does anybody want to share something that helps them in their lives with Bina?
Well, I have to be very studious because I'm not organized.
Okay. So in other words, you're saying that the organized part of it is not as dominant in you as the studious part of it.
Well, it makes life very difficult.
Okay. So you're basically taking a certain part of Bina and using it. Okay, that makes sense.
Mattie, does it mean that Bina is the people who has a very, like, their straight is the logical thinking?
Right. Bina is more of a logical thinking. It's an analytical thinking. It's more like math.
Got it.
Okay, 1 + 1 = 2. That's basically what it is. It's mathematical. It's very scientific. You know, a person who is a scientist will probably be more Bina oriented. Whereas a person who's an artist will be more Chachma oriented. Or a person who loves singing will also be more Chachma oriented, although they might have a bit of Bina because they have to analyze, what they're doing. But in other words, what I'm saying is that all of us have some of these or all of these, but some of them are more dominant in us and some of them are not as dominant. And that's why there's a list here: dominant, somewhat dominant, neutral, somewhat weak, very weak, because you can't say dominant or not dominant. You have to say somewhat dominant, not so dominant. You know what I'm saying? Because not everybody is on the same level when it comes to Bina, let's say, right? So Chachma would be more the artist, the creative one, a person who has a lot of faith, in God. He's connected to Chachma more than Bina, because Chachma is more accepting. Bina is not accepting anymore, because Bina, you're analyzing it already. So you don't have to accept what you hear, because in the place of Bina, you're already going back and forth and saying, okay, it's like this, it's like this, it's like this, this is good, this is bad. You know what I'm saying? So it's not so much about faith anymore. Okay, so that would be Bina. Okay, the next one, whoops, let me do it this way. I don't want to touch the screen. The next one would be Da'at. Okay, Da'at is a complicated one, but yet not, because Da'at basically is knowledge, but at the same time, it's connectivity. It's connection. It says, V'ha'adam yada es Chava. Adam knew Chava. What do you mean he knew her? He was connected to her. It's not that he was analyzing her anymore, but he already connected it. It's like Chachma is, I am deciding to make a house, not a home. I'm deciding to make a house. Bina, I'm putting out the blueprint. Okay, I'm saying I want 5 bedrooms, living room, dining room. Das would be, I want to connect it to a human being. I want the knowledge to be something. So it would be that I need 3 bedrooms, 1 for the parents, 2 for the kids. That would be Das already, because I'm humanizing it completely. I'm making it sound like it's something personal, relevant. It's relevant to somebody. That's Das. It's connecting. It's focusing on information to make it more relevant. If somebody, let's say, is in need, yes, I can analyze and see how he's in need, but now I'm deciding to make phone calls to help this person. That's already Das. I'm doing something with it. So here we have, woo, okay, Mattie, don't do that. You promised you wouldn't do that anymore, right? And you did it again. Okay, there we go. Okay, let's go back up. There we're at Bina, and now we're at Das, right? So Das, we say, is decisive, emotionally present, focused, forging strong connections. Now that is Das. So does anyone have any examples of how Das helps them in their life?
Makes life more pleasant.
It makes life more pleasant in one.
Well, if you have connections with other people.
Okay, so in other words, it's not all in your brain. So you're not Mr. Professor that's absent-minded, that doesn't connect to people and tell them how their beautiful scientific theory works. Okay, now that would be Das. Das would be how I connect the information to people. Okay, so let's say here, yeah.
Would that be appropriate to say that this is the point where the written mission statement would be materializing, when you're really kind of exercise what you thought into the practical level? So you start living.
It's not practical yet. Das is not practical yet. It's connecting to people. In other words, the knowledge is connecting to people, not the actual. In other words, the paper would be written in such a way that people would be connected to it. Not that you're actualizing anything yet.
Mattie, what about when you connecting to people, you learn and you get the knowledge?
It would be learning something, but explaining what you're learning so that someone else can understand it.
Okay.
In other words, making it down to earth for others. So it's more of the knowledge itself. It's not actualizing yet, because all that we're saying here has to do with the brain functions. Okay, the first three are all brain functions. They're Chachma, which is an intuitional, Bina, which is more analytical, and Das, which is more connecting to people, but in a brain function, not on a day-to-day level. In other words, how do I connect what I'm teaching to people? So if I give you guys an idea, I say, okay, so Chachma is this, Bina is this, Das is this, and then I analyze each one and I say, well, Das is decisive, emotional, that's Bina. Das would be, I would say, okay, let's find examples of how it's connected to you. That would be Das.
Okay. Mattie, question. You mentioned that Das, it's necessarily connection with people, but as I understand, it's connection with something, even with idea, with text, with book, when I don't just intellectually learned it, but I have internal connection to
right. Very good. Perfect. Yes, that's exactly what I was saying. Yes. If you connect yourself to it, that's already Das, right? So in other words, it's saying emotionally present means that a person is not up in the sky. Focus means I'm focusing on it and I really understand it well. I take it into myself, into who I am as a person. And forging strong connections would be I am connecting myself to it and I'm helping others connect to it. Okay, to whatever I'm teaching.
Mattie, I was wondering if it's hard for the person to give an example of the dot. Do you think it's because it's possible then this personality, this kind of things is the very weak for this person because it's hard to connect it to that and get real example?
I think that a lot of people have Chachma and Bina when they learn something, but not necessarily Das.
Okay.
Because if you don't have Das when you study something, you don't know how to give it over. You don't really understand what you're learning. See what I'm saying? Because you didn't take it emotionally within yourself. You didn't really understand it fully. That's what Das is, really understanding it to the extent that you can actually give it over to the next person. Because Das is the connecting force. Like, how can I connect it to others, to myself and to others? Because if I don't understand it myself fully, I'll never be able to teach it to anyone else. And that's my example. Because I do find it's very interesting. Sometimes I give a class and I understand it fully 100%, and that's when everyone else understands it. But sometimes I can give a class and I'm not really sure I understand it myself. And then the other people definitely don't understand it because if I don't get it, they definitely won't get it. And that's the reason when you're a preschool teacher, it works. Das is very important because as you teach little children, you can tell them an amazing concept, but if you're not bringing it down to their level and you're not connecting to the children that you're teaching, you're missing Das, and the kids won't get it.
Absolutely agree, Mattie. What a great example. Thank you.
Yeah, and that's the example of Das that I think that maybe all of you can resonate with, because all of you, I'm sure, taught at certain times in your life. And especially when you teach small children, that is crucial to have Das. And I noticed that you can have a college graduate, right? An amazing college graduate. And she finished all her ECE units and she got her bachelor's and her master's and a PhD and blah, blah, blah. But when she walks into the classroom, if she's missing Das, kids won't understand anything and she's the worst teacher. And that's what I find when it comes to teaching. I think Das is very crucial. Okay, so do you understand what Das is now at this point?
Yes, Mattie. Thank you.
Okay, no, I just want to make sure because it's not a very simple idea, because Das is actually, it's interesting because in Hasidic thought, they talk about Das so much. It's like one of those things that people can go on and speak and speak and speak and still not get it fully. So that's why I'm trying to give you simple examples so that you can understand. Okay, so those are the three intellectual faculties of a person. Now Das brings us to the emotional. Why? Because once we understand it fully, we can go on to the emotions. Okay, and that's why you need to be emotionally present. Otherwise, you can't go on to the emotions. Okay, so here goes the first one. The first one is chesed. We say chesed is kindness, love, desire to give and share, see everyone in a positive light, and never see anybody not good enough. In other words, I give no matter who is in front of me. It doesn't matter if they're abusing my giving or they don't care about my giving, but chesed is that kind of giving, that I give and give and give, and doesn't matter who I'm giving to. So that was actually Abraham. If you know, Abraham was the person that actually had chesed. He was very sad on the day that he had a circumcision because nobody was coming to visit him, because Abraham had to give. So it affected him in a bad way if he couldn't give. So here we see chesed. The word chesed, here they say cheerful. Okay, that makes sense. You give, you're happy. Extroverted, yes, because when I give, I need to be extroverted. Generous, kind, loving, optimistic. Okay, can anybody think of either people or yourself having this attribute of chesed and how it helps you in your life?
Within the Jewish community?
Doesn't matter.
It was a joke, I'm sorry.
No, Anna, you're wrong. It's me. And I think I have too much of it.
Optimistic?
Less.
Optimistic?
Optimistic.
Yeah, most of the time.
Okay, so you're saying that, you're saying she has all of them except for the optimism, which she, look, she has the optimism within her, but because of her upbringing, if we remember that was part of the story, she lost some of that. But as a nature, she has all the kindness she has, right? Yes. So tell me how that helps you or how it hinders you at the same time.
It injures me because, a lot of people are riding on my back, and I allow it to happen. I'm so afraid to hurt people's feelings that
So the problem is because you're afraid to hurt someone's feelings, that's where you run into trouble.
That's right.
And what's the positive of it?
Oh, the positive, life is much easier if you look at it from optimistic point of view. If you give and you do it with pleasure, it's, I think
right.
it makes.
So chesed giving is I am giving and I don't care who I'm giving to. That's right. The kind of chesed giving. Yes.
Exactly. As long as it makes me feel good, and it does make me feel good.
Right. Okay. So then we have the other side of the coin, which is Gavura, which basically means strength. Okay. Gavura is restraint and discipline. I am giving only to the people who deserve it. That's Gavura. So chesed is boundless giving, and Gavura is cautious giving, calculated giving, realistic giving for that part. Okay? So we have here cautious, critical, disciplined, frugal, introverted, perfectionist, purist. Okay, and actually in my book, I put down what those things mean because those bothered me when I was doing it. Let's see, that's not this. Okay, so frugal means thrifty, simple, okay? Quick doing things. And purist is a person who has many rules and he's very structured. Okay, so that is Gavura giving. Then we have the next one, which is Tiferet. These all go hand in hand, the three of these. So Tiferet is kind of the harmonizing combinations. So we said that Avram was chesed. He would have pain when he didn't have guests. So he didn't care about the recipient. But at the same time, Gavura is the analytical person that analyzes who I'm giving it to. And Tiferet, that person not deserving, but I know that he needs it, so I will give it to him, even if he doesn't deserve it. Like, let's say an example would be, I'm giving to this person, even though I know he doesn't deserve it, but because he's my friend's son, I'll give it to him because I know he needs it. That would be Tiferet. So we say Tiferet is balanced, compassionate. So compassion means I have compassion on them, no matter, I care about them, empathetic, listening, and sensitive. Okay, so those are Tiferet. So who can tell me, between Chesed, Gvura, and Tiferet, who can tell me if anyone has any of those and how it helps them in their lives?
I'd like to give it a shot. It's not as clear to me. So out of all the traits, this is the most blurry, but I can probably think of an example of some of the friends, who are very long-term friends for decades, and would take a person as a whole. And often we disagree. I disagree with the decisions. I might be in conflict with my moral values, and yet I'm here if the person needs help.
Oh, so that's Tiferet, you're saying that that's the idea of Tiferet. Yeah, you're right. It is. Yeah. So you are clearer than you thought.
Okay.
So that would be Tiferet, because although I'm not really, I don't agree with them 100%, but I have compassion, so I'll be with
Right.
them. Yeah, very good. Excellent. That's a good example. Okay, anybody else? Okay, so we can go on to Netzach. Okay. Okay, so those were the three emotions, and this is also, Netzach is also an emotion. Netzach means victory, determination. Even though there's obstacles, I'm gonna go through it. Even though I have ups and downs and challenges, I'm going to go for it. So it's a person usually that likes adversity and wants to overcome adversity. Okay, so here we say Netzach, bold, competitive, consistent, determined, gritty, which basically means, gritty means stick to it, even though it's scary. Still gonna stick to your guns, right? Thrives on adversity. They love adversity. They love when there's a problem and they can solve it and they could overcome it. So anybody have any ideas of anyone that they know or of themselves that helped them overcome obstacles, be a Netzach person? No matter what, I'm going to do it. I'm going to get through it.
I personally think that I hate it, but people say that I do it all the time.
Oh, so you overcome the challenges, but you fetch about it. Is that what you're saying?
Yeah.
It's cute. In other words, you have a lot of Netzach, but you're not happy with it.
No.
Okay. That's interesting because, you know, it's a great trait to have. I mean, if you can overcome any obstacle that's in front of you, it's a great trait to have.
Oh,
but you're right.
you.
Sometimes it's hard for us to deal with.
Mattie, can that be that one trait really escalates other traits that are less, that are not as pronounced in you? Like, for example, you know, I'm thinking about that. I'm afraid of everything, you know, it's like, and I don't think of myself as a competitive person,
Right.
But if I feel that this is my mission, if I feel that this is right, so then I do become that person who is competitive. I do become that person that can make a decision and consistent, even though on a daily basis, without a purpose, there is no need to rise to the challenge.
Okay, so your Netzach comes into play when you have some issues.
Yeah. If push
Right.
comes
When
to
it's like a
shove.
mission driven, when I can hide behind the mission.
Right. So everybody has a certain amount of Netzach, but your Netzach sometimes is dormant. It's just sitting there. But when you need to, you can use it.
Right.
So you still have it. It just doesn't always show up unless you need it because of your personality, that you don't really like to argue with people and you're not really interested on a day-to-day basis.
Right.
That's why you don't use the Netzach. But when you know that you need to do something, your Netzach shows up, which makes sense because sometimes characteristics are there, but you don't use it because you don't want to use it.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Can I say that I see myself strongly in some of these aspects, like some of you are saying, and weak in others? So it wasn't clear where I stand on this. Maybe this is obvious, but it just occurred to me on the previous one, which was on Tiferet. Yeah, I rated each one individually: bold, competitive, consistent, determined. Like I'm gritty, 5. Consistency is a 2. So anyways, I added it up, divided it by 6. Maybe this is obvious enough, but for me, I was like, oh, it helped me arrive at where I am in this.
Very good, because in Tiferes, there are different aspects of Tiferes. In other words, these 10 are the main characteristics, but within each characteristic, there's a little bit of something else in it. So I would say that in Tiferes, there's a more chesed Shebet Tiferes. There's a more Gavura Shebet Tiferes. There might be a Netzach of Tiferes too. And that's probably why you don't rate high on each one, because you can't have, not everybody has a strong Tiferes, because 100%, because that would be Tiferes of Tiferes. You would be 100% Tiferes. But because you have other components of yourself, it may be stronger in different parts of Tiferes and weaker in others. So it definitely makes a lot of sense. Because each one, I mean, if we went through all the different ones that could be changes, because this is not a very comprehensive test. It's just, it's general, but you can look at it and see the small components and see which one is more weak and which one is more strong. And the ones that are stronger, yes, it's great that it's stronger. The ones that are weaker, yes, it's okay to be weaker, but maybe sometimes you got to work on it, or sometimes there's no reason to work on it because the things that are strong compensate for it. So you just, I mean, that's why it's such a difficult thing to do this, because this is more of a psychological way of looking at things. So it's beyond the scope of the class, but I'm just giving you a little bit of an example. Okay, so that was Netzach, right?
Mm-hmm.
And then we have Hode. Hode is splendor, really, or it could be acknowledgement and submission. Submit to a higher cause. Goal is more important. The goal is more important than me. That's basically what Hode is. If you remember that we learned a little bit about the idea of being humble, and we said that a person that wants to reach his goal doesn't think about himself as much. And this is what we're talking about. This is the idea of Hode. Okay, and here they use Hode as patient, accommodating, devoted, grateful, and humble. So patience is very important when in the idea of Hode. A person who's very patient, a person who accommodates the other people. So it's kind of the opposite of Netzach. Netzach is a fight, 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 fight. Hode is, okay, let's give in a little bit. Let's like do it quietly. Let's accommodate the person. Let's be patient, okay? And let's not, let's just get to the goal and not, not be so, so pushy. So it would be kind of almost the opposite of Netzach. Okay, anybody want to share something about Hode or something that helps in Hode?
Well, it can be very accommodating, but if you're pushed, then you become feisty.
Okay, so in other words, right, it could be, in other words, not to be extreme on either Netzach or Hode. That's how I see it. I feel sometimes it's not time to use Netzach, it's time to kind of be patient and wait and see what happens instead of jumping the gun right away. Depending on the situation. Okay, so let's go on to your Yesod. Okay, so the next one is Yesod, which Yesod is kind of like connection, but on the level of emotion. Selfless, a selfless relationship with others. Okay, that's Yesod. Yesod. Okay, so true concern for other people and want others to be happy. That's Yesod. So in other words, it takes from everybody and kind of gives it over. It doesn't really do much itself that much. It just is. Okay, Yesod, I am selfless and I am concerned for other people. And I want others to be happy and have a good life. Like I care about others to the extent that I just want them to be happy. That's Yesod. Okay, well, it's not too much that we can talk about because it's just basic selflessness. I mean, that's, and then Malchus, which is, Malchus is royalty, ability to lead. So it's a leader, a communicator, a person that's expressive, a receptive person, and an implementer. So this is all Malchus. Malchus is basically before action. I'm just about to do something and I need to get it done. Okay, either I communicate it, or I implement it, or I express it, or I receive from everybody else what I should do. Okay, or it could be a person that's, or it could be a person that's a leader. So Malchus is basically the in-between implementer. So now the question is, why do we need all these 10? Okay, the reason we need all these 10 is because each one of them has a different point of characteristic that really we can understand how to implement things in our lives. Obviously, we can't compare ourselves to others because each person has another mission. And it's not just about the mitzvah, it's also about implementing this on your own, in your own life, and everything else in your life, not just the mitzvahs. Okay. But we also have to use our characteristics to actually do the mitzvah. So who wants to read text number 4?
I can read.
Okay, go ahead.
Rav Yosef asked of Rav Yosef, son of Rabba, with which mitzvah was your father's most careful?
Okay, I do 5 also.
God gives a unique personality to each person. We all must pursue our mission in accordance with this personality, because it comprises our portion in this world. For example, if you're more cerebral, utilize this trait for the study of Torah. Surely you will observe the other mitzvot and commit yourself to the mission shared by every Jew. But you will be extra particular and passionate about Torah study because it comports with your personality.
Okay, so do you understand what he's saying here? Like each person has their own mitzvahs that work better for them, or they can use whatever traits they have to be able to do the mitzvot better. Okay, continue.
If kindness is your personality, utilize this trait to love and care for others. This includes sharing the rich heritage of Judaism with Jews who never had the opportunity to learn about it. This doesn't mean that you won't study Torah or perform other mitzvot. It means that you ought to be particularly spirited about your caring for others, given the unique capacity you have for this. If you are a pragmatic person who knows how to get things done, involve yourself in starting an organization and spare no effort to get it off the ground. Alternatively, an existing institution, an existing institution, a school, may have a particular challenge that is inhibiting student performance. Can you solve it? Perhaps you can elevate the plight of the poor and homeless. Sure, you will also study Torah and develop emotional connections with others, but place extra focus on getting things done.
Right, okay. So in other words, what is he saying over here? He's saying, follow the clues of your personality to be able to do different mitzvot. Don't compare yourself to others. Don't look at others and say, oh, why didn't I have their mission? You need to utilize your own mission. You're not, it shouldn't be that someone else's mission should not be your mission. But look at text number 7, which is later on in the book. Okay. Somebody want to read text number 7?
Sure, I can read.
Okay, go ahead.
Rabbi Yohanan ben Zakkai met the daughter of Nakdimon ben Gurion. In their conversation, she told him that her father had not been charitable. But did Nahimon ben Gurion give charity? Indeed, a Bereta states that people would say about Nahimon ben Gurion that when he would leave his home to go to the study hall, his attendants would spread fine woolen garments underneath him for him to walk on, and he would allow the poor to follow him and take the expensive garments for themselves. Also, Nakdimon gave much charity. He did not give enough in proportion to his wealth. Also, he gave much charity. He did not give enough in proportion to his wealth. As the saying goes, the burden is set according to the strength of the camel.
Right. So if you have certain strengths, use those strengths to whatever you need to do. Don't compare yourself to someone else, because every person is given different strengths and different things that they need to do. So not just we only have strengths, but we also have weaknesses. So there's two things. There's the blind spots, meaning the things that we don't really see. And then there are the negative of our strengths. So let's see. Let's say a person is very creative, okay? But a person that's creative may have a lot of mood swings, because when you're a very creative person, you may go hot, cold, hot, cool. You might go from one extreme to the other. So that might be your blind spot that you have to pay attention to. A person that's chesed, that gives too much kindness, might overwhelm other people. So you have to be careful not to overwhelm everyone that's around you either. So we have all 10, and we can actually deal with those. But here's a story in the Talmud about, remember Shammai and Hillel? This story you probably know, but the next one you won't. So here's the story. A man once came to Shammai and said to him, I would like to convert on the condition that you teach me the Torah while I stand on one foot. What did Shammai do? Shammai chased him away with the builder's measuring tool that was in his hand. The prospective convert went to Hillel, who converted him and said, what is hateful to you, do not do to your fellow. This is the whole Torah. The rest is commentary. Go and learn it. So basically, we remember this famous story between Hillel and Shammai. Hillel was more chesed, kindness, whereas Shammai was more Gavura. He was more strength. But a funny thing happened, though. Many years later, Shammai wrote something else. Listen to what Shammai wrote. Shammai would say, make your Torah study a permanent fixture of your life. Say little and do much, and receive every human being with a pleasant countenance. Does that sound like Shammai?
No.
Why not?
Because it's more of a hesed in his words. He's
Right.
more optimistic.
Right. What happened to Shammai?
He got
You think
older.
He got older, he got wiser, he was able to work on himself, and now he can see that the way he treated that person was not good. And it says that Shammai did tshuva. He actually repented towards the end of his life and realized that he needs to be more chesed, that he needs to have more chesed in his life. which is very interesting because sometimes our weaknesses is something that we need to work on. Sometimes our strengths is something that we need to pay attention to. So it's very interesting to see how that worked. I thought that was very fascinating that he did that. Okay. I was actually going to look at this. There was something here I wanted to read. I can't remember what. No, it's not on this one. It actually was in something else. I probably remembered something. Anyway, so here it is. Focus more on your strengths to bring joy. Joy is engaging in our purpose, right? So in other words, when we engage in our purpose, that is what brings us joy. So all this that we were learning was just for the fact that we should start being more happy and know what our purpose is. And don't keep saying, I want to change my purpose. I want a different purpose. No, God gave you your purpose. God gave you your characteristics. And he told you, he said, I gave you those strengths and I gave you the weaknesses, and you got to work with whatever strengths you have and not look for something that somebody else has, because that's what we keep tending to do. We keep tending to look at something and see maybe there's something else. So, so we see here on, we were saying before, that it is a paradigm that on one hand, we're one human being, and on the other hand, we have so many different characteristics in our lives. So you would think that you have to use every single one at all times, but basically it's not that you need to use it all the time. You need to find what strengths you have and how we can bring our purpose and joy in our lives. And this is what this whole class is basically about.